Unspoken Issues.
Let's go ahead.
Main event time.
Yeah, it's main event time. We're going to be talking about Hitman #1. By golly, 96 #1s. Like I said, March is on, and I put out the poll, and here were the choices. You had Venom the Hunted. Eddie Brock's Lethal Protector era continues as Venom finds himself targeted and on the defensive. The 90s anti-hero boom was in full swing, and Marvel wasn't slowing down. We then have Hitman #1 with Garth Ennis and John McCrea. Introduced Tommy Monaghan or Monaghan. How would you say that?
I've been saying Monaghan, but I don't really know.
That's what I did too. Tommy Monaghan, a wisecracking Gotham hitman with X-ray vision and telepathy. It's DC's underworld like you've never seen it. Then we have Dart #1. That's right. Image Comics gives... I think this gets like so much flack for being one of the worst comics.
I hope not, because I just ordered all 3 issues.
Did you? I have heard it's not.
I've never read them.
When you do read them, we need a special Chris Armstrong report on Dart 1 through 3. Image Comics gives Dart her own 3-issue limited series, spinning out of the Savage Dragon and Freak Force corner of the Image universe. This one delivers sharp edges, that signature mid-90s intensity. And then finally, our Dark Horse pick, which I'm saying legitimate Dark Horse pick.
Right, Dark Horse Comics.
The Dark Horse Comics. Star Wars Tales from Mos Eisley #1. Dark Horse dives into the most infamous cantina in the galaxy, expanding the stories of the alien smugglers and the shady figures who made Mos Eisley legendary. Our winner, and you called it 3 days into it. You're like, this is not even going to be close. 63% of the vote is Hitman #1. I did see where your allegiance lied, though, and if you'd like to explain yourself as to why you picked who you picked or what you picked. I've never read the book that you picked, so I'm just kind of curious. Did you pick it because you've read it and you liked it?
Well, I voted for Star Wars, and I don't think I have, because I didn't read a lot of that Dark Horse Star Wars stuff back then. Done the Shadows of the Empire book episode. And I said then, like, it was rare for me to enjoy a comic that is based on another, like a TV or movie property for whatever reason. I usually don't think they translate well. So I read some Star Wars comics. I never read that one, though.
Okay.
Well, so it would have been a good chance. But no, Legions of the Unspoken have betrayed me.
Yeah, it ends up third. Venom the Hunted was second with 18% of the vote. Star Wars Tales from Mos Eisley gets 12%. And I'm easily 3 votes, 7%.
Yeah, Dart's way back in the back.
Nobody was, and I was one of those people because I had heard so much bad press about the book. I was like, maybe people will be like, oh, these guys have got it covered. One of the worst things that came out of the Image era.
So yeah, it would have gotten my vote just because of my Savage Dragon allegiance,
right,
if not for Star Wars being in there. So
I hear you. So yeah, to talk about Hitman here, Hitman's created by Garth Ennis and John McCrea. It could be McCrea. I could be saying...
I say McCrea, but that doesn't mean that it's correct.
We will land on that. Hitman #1 has a cover date of 1996. Now, this thing goes for, I think, 60-some issues from 96 to like 2001. So
it was
solid.
It was
run.
popular.
Yeah. Garth Ennis obviously writing our first issue here. John McCrea doing pencils, inks, and I think he does the cover as well. Colorist is Carla Feeney. Lettered by Willie Schubert. And yeah, so there's, like I said, this is on the shelves. I have it as March, and I was looking at what was on shelves at that point, even though the cover date's April. I'm always looking for what's on the shelves, because that's how Mike's Amazing World will have it listed there. So Hitman #1 was on the shelves March of 1996. It wins the poll, so we're going to talk about it. But the first thing that has to happen is Chris Armstrong has to explain why he doesn't like Garth Ennis.
I come to it honestly. It's because every time I read a Garth Ennis comic, I think, man, that sucked.
Oh, wow.
I knew Garth Ennis. He was a big deal because of Preacher. I never read that. This was a big kind of a hit comic in the mid-90s that he was writing. And this would have been around I got back into it around Marvel versus DC time, so that would have been like late, I think that was like late 95. So I was back into comics by this time, but I didn't read Hitman. I think the first time I gave Ennis a shot was probably Just a Pilgrim.
Okay.
The Black Bull. It was the Black Bull comic, the publisher that Gareb Shamus did. Do you remember that era where they had Wizard had its own comic line for a minute?
Oh, no. I do not recall that. Was it any good?
Oh, really? Well, Just a Pilgrim wasn't.
Okay.
But they also had one that Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti did I don't remember if they were writing it or if it was just the art, but it was called Gatecrasher, and that was a fun comic.
That sounds familiar.
liked.
I don't think I read it. That
Yeah, and they had a few others, but I think Shadow Reavers was one that they had done, published, but their venture didn't last too awful long. But Just a Pilgrim was one that they did. I didn't like it at all. I think that might have been John McCrea as well. And then he did a Fury comic for like Marvel Max in the early 2000s.
okay.
Just fucking garbage.
Oh no! Oh no!
No.
Is it like that signature Garth Ennis dark humor BS?
Yeah, Derek Robertson was the artist who I like and has done some stuff with Ennis. I think he was the Boys artist as well.
Yeah.
And then he did Punisher, Frank, the Marvel Knights. That was in like the late 90s.
Right.
When they brought him back from being the angel and stuff. And the Welcome Back Frank was good. Manucci was the bad guy. It was a little goofy, but I thought it was good, and it was the artist from The Preacher, Steve Dillon. And then they did a sequel, and in that one they brought the Russian back to life and gave him big boobies. And have you read this? It just got awful.
That's great. Oh, that's funny.
And that was just the thing that stands out the most that I remember not liking, but it just wasn't good. I didn't like the sequel at all. So from that point on, it was like he's 1 for 4 at this point in my mind.
It's so interesting that the stuff that you don't like that he does is the stuff that I like that he does. Because
I don't mind over the top goofy stuff, but not with Punisher. Like that, to me, that's not. And when he did Punisher Max, I did read some of that stuff and liked it. It was a lot more of what I like.
You mentioned Manucci, and there is a standing joke that me and Mark, whichever one where Manucci gets mauled by the polar bears.
Right.
There is.
I believe that happens in the first one, and then in the second volume, she comes back and she's lost her arms and legs.
I think there's like one line that she says, like, "Oh, it's bears," or maybe it was Ronnie. I can't remember, but either way,
it's one of the henchmen.
Yes.
Because Frank, this is burned into my memory for whatever reason. Frank runs into them, the bears, and his reaction is to punch one in the face to make it mad.
Yes.
So that when the bad guys follow up behind him, the bears attack him. And yeah, they're all growling and I think maybe salivate.
Is it like,
clearly they're about to attack and one of the henchmen is like, it's bears.
Yes. Doesn't Punisher like punch it in the face and like the bear is like completely stunned or something? And
he's like shocked.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember that. That is ridiculous, over the top, stupid and absurd. And I somewhat agree with you. Like, you want a nice serious tone for a Punisher book, but it's like the signature stuff that Garth Ennis is known for, and it cracks me up for some reason. So then I've got to ask, you have not touched The Boys then at all, have you?
I was working at the comic shop when that series was going. I would thumb through it because I like Derek Robertson, the artist.
Okay. And
I was just like, God, this looks like such garbage. And I like the show, which is kind of strange.
Okay, all right.
The only reason I even gave the show a chance is because Carl Urban is in it, and he's a fucking god. He's great. So I gave it a shot, and I like the show quite a bit. But yeah, the one thing from the first issue of The Boys that I liked, and they did it in the show as well, is the death of Huey's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which is shocking, and that's the kind of thing you could see happening in a world where superheroes exist.
It's always a dark thing with him too. Like Garth Ennis has got to take it to this, like, all these guys with all this power, and this isn't a world without corruption, and our heroes are corrupted in some way, and that feels like Garth Ennis all over. So, well, let me get into the summary here, and then we'll talk about what we thought of the book here. So in Hitman number 1, we're introduced to Tommy Monaghan, a Gotham-based contract killer who opens the issue by blowing away a group of mob thugs while casually explaining to us that killing's his job. Our first page, right, is like him with a gun right up to some dude's head pulling the trigger. Yeah. So he's gifted with X-ray vision and telepathy thanks to a bizarre alien encounter, which I could not remember the name of the event, but
Bloodlines.
That's right. Bloodlines was the event that happened, and apparently, if I remember correctly, reading, it happened in like the Demon Annual number 2 or something is when he gets his powers.
I think that's right.
So Anyway, yeah, bloodlines. He's got his powers from like some kind of like alien encounter. Tommy uses his abilities to stay one step ahead of his enemies, including a hilariously over-the-top super team called Shadow Force, who he dispatches with brutal efficiency. After the carnage, the story shifts to Noonan's bar, where Tommy and a crew of fellow hitmen unwind, joke, and reveal a surprising sense of camaraderie and personal code. But things take a darker turn when a mysterious demonic force, I believe these guys were in hell. They have their eyes on Tommy as a potential agent, recognizing both his usefulness and the sliver of morality still buried inside him, which they plan on basically trying to get him to kind of go away from. He's got a decent code. I'll talk about that here in a second. Meanwhile, Tommy takes a $1 million contract to assassinate the Joker, putting him directly in the crosshairs of Batman. The issue ends with a brutal rooftop confrontation where Tommy realizes he can't bring himself to kill Batman, and so he ends up being swiftly taken down and ultimately surrenders to the police, setting the stage for a collision between Gotham's underworld, its heroes, and something far more sinister. So there you go. That is a one-paragraph summary of issue number 1 of Hitman. So I'll start with my notes here. John McCrea's art. My best way of kind of describing it is it's kind of cartoony, and
Sure.
it's not over the top cartoony, but when you look at like these demons from hell, they're all like really slender, and it's not like realistic depictions of people. Batman looks, I compared this to almost like the Sam Keith chunky Batman.
Yeah, I see that.
He's built. It's definitely not as gritty and grimy as Keith's artwork can be, but he has this. There's some moments where you're looking at Batman and he just looks huge. As far as Tommy goes, this guy feels like your blue collar bar hopping hitman, I guess is the best way to put it. He's got his buddies at Noonan's bar, which is pretty cool. We get introduced to that cast, which I think is like, there's Sean, there's Hacken, I think, and then his buddy Pat, and I want to say there was a fourth. But anyway.
The other one is the one Ringo, that he has seemed to have the most respect for.
Yeah, they have this kind of like competitive edge or competitive thing going on between each other. Tommy's like, I always want to stay one step ahead of this guy or whatever. So, and also he's a guy that's got these powers, and he's definitely not a superhero.
No, it's in the title.
Yeah, right. He's using his powers. At one point, he meets a girl by the name of Wendy. Just happens to run into her, and we got to meet cute, as they say, on the road. And in one panel, he's talking to her, and he kind of explains like who he is. And she's like, "Oh, you're a superhero. What are you looking at me with your X-ray vision?" And sure enough, he was, because the next panel, she's in her bra and panties, and he's looking at her. So skeevy kind of guy, but.
I guess that X-ray vision only goes through one layer.
So DC tells us. But yeah, he doesn't kill innocents. He doesn't kill cops. Like, he makes that a big deal. When he faces Batman, like, he's heard that the bat symbol was completely armored. So when he starts, like, his one chance of trying to get away from Batman, he pulls his pistols out and just starts unloading on the bat symbol on his chest, because he knows that's armored. Although I don't know if he gave it a whole lot of thought about Batman falling backwards off of the building. but that he's at least giving it some forethought that he doesn't want to outright kill this guy with his gun. So if you're going to say like he's got any good quality to him, there's that. He doesn't kill innocent people, and he's trying to keep the do-gooders alive. Give me your thoughts here just on the character of Tommy Monaghan here. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, he is a total dirtbag. He's using his telepathy to basically trick this girl into going out with him, and telling the reader, like, I would totally try and bang this girl, but I know that she wouldn't go for it, so I'm going to act like I'm a nice guy and not take a swing. But interesting, he does have a bit of a moral code. I like the sequence in the bar when they're playing cards. They've got some good banter going with the other scumbags that he associates with. That's a nice scene. The only other Hitman exposure I think I've had is the issue of JLA, where I wanted to have like a recruitment drive. So they're bringing up potential new members to interview.
Mm-hmm.
and somebody decided to bring Hitman up for some reason.
Oh, wow.
And he's rejected, and he says something like, I just came up here to get a look at Wonder Woman with my x-ray vision.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think that's the only time I've ever read anything with Hitman in it that I can remember anyway. So
okay. Yeah, he's a bit depraved. Just
this is a Garth Ennis comic, so obviously he's not a good person, even though he's the protagonist.
Yeah,
I did get some Firearm vibes.
Okay,
because he's got powers unlike Firearm from the Ultraverse.
Yep,
but he's got the trench coat and the gun, and he's the only one of these. Like he's meeting up with all these other hitmen, and he's the only one in the group that's taken on superpowered cases and targets and stuff.
Right.
And in Firearm, that's what Alex Wilde was doing. He would basically always end up dealing with ultras and stuff. So that was a little similar, I thought.
It's interesting.
It almost made you think, like, what if DC had gotten Ultraverse and Malibu like they had planned initially? Instead of Hitman, could it have been Garth Ennis and John McCrea's Firearm that he was using?
Oh, wow.
But they're not that similar. I just got the vibes, really.
Yeah. There's a big deal made about him wearing his shades while they're playing poker. And again, he's not cheating using his x-ray vision. They make a point to say that. Right. But the one guy's like,
he would tell us if he was.
Yes, he would.
So.
Right. But yeah, they're like, man, why does he keep his shades on this whole time? And you mentioned how he takes on these contracts. That's how it kind of comes up that he deals with metahumans a lot. But we soon get a good look at his eyes shortly thereafter.
Right.
I didn't realize he had his glasses off when he was talking to Pat, his buddy, like when he was dropping the beer and bullets off or whatever. But he did have his glasses off. Of course, Pat wasn't freaking out because he probably knows the guy pretty well. But when Batman sees him, because he drops his when he drops his glasses. So I think he has no eyes.
It appears that his eyes are just completely black.
Yeah,
like the pupil is the entire eyeball.
Pretty scary. Pretty scary.
Yeah, it would be freaky looking.
What's your thoughts on Shadow Force?
Well,
yeah,
clearly an Image parody team. They've got all the hallmarks. They've got the big muscle guy. They've got the Wolverine ripoff type guy. They've got the leader with energy powers and the bad girls. Just, it is what it is. One of the things Garth Ennis, I think, is known for is being satirical. And he's, I think, made it clear he thinks superheroes are stupid. And he doesn't care about, that's why he doesn't write that stuff. And when he does, he sort of makes fun of it. And that's fine.
Yep.
And so that's what when they first show up, I was thinking, man, I kind of wish I was reading a Shadow Force comic instead of this Hitman comic, because this is right in my wheelhouse. But that was it was funny, and they are kind of lame because they're all easily killed by two handguns.
That's so much a commentary of just exactly what you were talking about. Like, he wanted to be like, this is what I think of you guys. And they show up, they make a big speech, and then Tommy comes out from behind the freaking crates, and it's one panel of like 20 shots being fired off, and then the next panel, everybody's dead. So it's like, yeah, okay, Garth, I get what you're saying here, buddy. Thank you. My notes were pretty much that he quickly and brutally takes those guys out. Garth Ennis is known for doing some violent stuff, and there's definitely, I'm curious as to what people would have thought about this book back in '96. Being
the most violent thing we really see is that opening, and you get it right away. So I guess you kind of know what you're in for when he blows that guy's head off.
Right.
At the very beginning. That was pretty neat. I guess in the first page, he's actually shooting a guy in the eyeball.
Right.
And then a few pages later, there's a guy, he ends up shaking his gun in his mouth.
And what's strange is like the guy comes barreling in, and like the only way that this happens is that he almost like falls onto Tommy with his mouth open, and then his gun accidentally lands in it. But anyway,
he's got his gun in the guy's mouth, and the guy's pleading, and he's using his telepathy to
right.
And the guy said, oh God, Lord, help me, please. Beg him to let you live. Beg him, please.
Yep.
Which may have worked, but then he also, in his mind, was saying, and then I'll waste him.
And he shoots him. He just pulls the trigger, blows the guy's head off.
Yeah.
Hell and the demon plot line.
Yeah, I assume that's going to be where the story kind of goes from here. But those guys look pretty gnarly with the floating corpses.
Yeah, this is weird.
They almost look like they're victims of Tommy because they look like they're riddled with bullet holes.
I made that specific note after I looked at it a few times. I was like, oh, wait, there's some bullet holes here. So I wonder if they were like victims of him at some point. And it's weird to have this like street level in DC, just about anything goes sometimes, especially if it's Batman adjacent or whatever. But regardless, Hitman feels very street level at first. There's no caption that says in hell. You kind of start to gather that later on in the conversations between these two demon/zombie guys that, oh, they're actually in hell. And they bring this guy, I think it's called the Mawzir, Mawzir. I don't know what the plan is here. He's obviously going to be an antagonist, but the swastika on the forehead,
that should tell you something.
They live in like this massive gun. It looks like a gun that's in hell. And I have no idea. What a weird like juxtaposition as to what we're going to get. So I'm curious as to kind of where that goes. Okay, so Batman shows up and we get Batman and Tommy fighting it out here. What are your thoughts on our big brouhaha between these two?
Pretty cool. Much like we talked on an earlier episode. I'm not sure when this one's going to air, but we talked about Night Watch. We were getting a Spider-Man appearance in the first issue, and the DC version of that is either Batman or Superman.
Right.
So depending on, I guess, the tone of the character they're introducing. So yeah, it makes sense that they would bring Batman in here. Maybe my favorite moment of the whole first issue was the accidental use of telepathy when he hears Batman thinking about a batarang, and then he's like, batarang? And then ducks.
That's what that was. Okay. I thought
that's how I took it, is that he wasn't intending to, but he heard Batman thinking about he's getting ready to throw a batarang, and then that gave Tommy the opportunity to duck.
I thought he got hit by the batarang, saw the batarang afterwards, and I was like, oh, I got hit by a batarang. I didn't even catch that. That's actually pretty cool.
It's cool that he uses his X-ray vision to show, like, yeah, want to kill this guy, but he can take a shot, so I'll aim for the chest. And then there's the moment when Batman punches him in the stomach and he barfs on Batman's shoes, apparently, which was funny.
Yeah.
So, that was interesting.
Yeah, as far as the fight goes, it's pretty short. Tommy knew he was outmatched, and he was definitely running for his life. And then the way that it ends and the way the issue ends is, then granted, this is a part 1, so clearly it's going to go further in the next issues. I'm curious if Tommy's going to get the Joker and kill him. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be something? But by the end of this issue, Batman's gone. Like, I don't know if he just left and then because the police showed up, but Tommy's surrounded by police. He puts his gun down and he's got his hands raised. And that's the end of that. I really don't think they're... So, but yeah, decent first issue. This is my first Hitman reading, I'm pretty sure, but I know that like a lot of people have always told me that this was a good book to read. It really gets wacky. I feel like years ago, I found out about, is Dog Welder a villain from Hitman?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's correct.
So I heard about Dog Welder and I was like, where did this come from? And it came out of the pages of Hitman, if I remember correctly. And the defenestrator, oh my goodness, about jumping through windows. And Evan did some looking up because I think the defenestrator is like a guy who was, I think, kicking people out of windows or something. It has something to do with windows, if I remember correctly. But again, wacky, stupid, over-the-top villains. I'm a fan of that kind of stuff. I guess I'm a fan of satire, really. If you want to take aim at some stuff, fine. That's fine. Go ahead. I'm along for the ride.
The only other thing from this issue specifically, I like the art. You mentioned it earlier. I bring this up pretty much every time we talk about a comic from this era. It seems like from like the mid to late 90s, there's a lot of like digital shading, especially like on the faces and stuff, which is a little distracting. I don't really care that much. Like, it's not that bad. Like, it's just kind of was what they were doing at the time, pretty much all over comics. So.
Right.
It looks a little wonky now, but the art is pretty solid overall. I checked and I was wrong about Just a Pilgrim was not McCrea. It was Carlos Escazera or something like that, or Esquizera. I can't pronounce the name.
Okay. Doesn't sound familiar to me.
I also thought it was interesting, like when I've always assumed Hitman's first appearance was in Hitman #1, but no, that wasn't the case. It was, as you said earlier, the demon part of that Bloodlines crossover was where he got his powers. I also don't think I knew that he had telepathy. I knew he had the X-ray vision, and maybe I knew at some point in time that he had telepathy, and I just forgot about it. But that was surprising as I was reading this. I'm going to go ahead and say this was a good comic book.
Oh, look out. Look.
Despite my dislike in general of Garth Ennis comics, and I've got more on that in a moment.
Oh, boy.
I will say this was pretty good, and I'm interested enough that I might continue reading Hitman, but I'm not going to be in any rush. Maybe once I get done with Concrete, I'll move back into the Hitman.
That's funny.
See what's going on there. But yeah, panel, I'll go ahead and just say page 23. It's after Monaghan barfs on the shoes and Batman whacks him out of the panel with an uppercut.
You are one son of a gun, because that was my freaking panel, was the uppercut. And specifically when I thought Sam Keith, it was that panel that made me go, the big chunky Batman. Well, son of a bitch. Now I've got to bring up Hitman #1 and look over. You know what? I'll go the easy route here. I'm going to go with the panel, the page, because I think it was a full page, like
Shadow Force, or
no, I ain't taking Shadow Force. Unfortunately, it was the full page of, I think, the first page where he's shooting the guy straight in the eye, and I guess as far as like, you know, panels go and pages go, if you want to know what you're going to get here, you're going to get I kill people for a living and some guy getting his eyeball blasted out. So there you go. That's what I'm going with. All right. So yeah, more on that in a minute. What, you got more to say now?
I was thinking about his stuff that I actually have read or I'm somewhat familiar with. He's been doing comics since like the late 80s or early 90s. So he's got tons of stuff that I've never read. We started in, I think, 2000 AD and some of that stuff. But yeah, like he even did some Star Wars stuff, I think, during the Dark Horse era.
Oh, did he really?
I saw that somewhere in this. I'm looking at his Wikipedia that has his like bibliography, but
okay, I had no idea he did the Star Wars stuff.
But yeah, so and he did Hellblazer. I know a lot of people like his Hellblazer stuff. Maybe that's not bad.
No problem. I'm gonna pull him up on Mike's Amazing World. Keep going.
Okay, so yeah, The Authority.
That's a pretty important book.
I haven't read his Authority stuff. I was thinking of Midnighter 1 through 6. He did a Midnighter run in 2007. I do like Chris Sprouse, the artist on that, which is why I probably read it to begin with. Punisher, The End. That's actually pretty good. I like that. It was a one-shot that he did.
Been a while since I read that one.
And that might have been McCrea as well, but I'm not 100% sure. Punisher Max, Born with Derek Robertson. Absolute garbage. That was actually probably the last straw for me because the Fury book that I didn't like came out in 2001. Born came out in 2003. Didn't like it at all. I thought it sucked. And that was probably when I decided for sure that I wasn't going to give him another trust. But then I'm lying because I see here The End actually came out a year later, and that was Richard Corbin that did the art on that.
Oh, okay.
Which is probably why I liked it. It was because of Corbin.
Yeah.
He did 3 issues of Spider-Man's Tangled Web with John McCrea that were not good.
Wow.
A Ghost Rider run with Clayton Crane, Ghost Rider 1 through 6. I remember thinking that was pretty good. And there was a sequel called Trail of Tears that I didn't hate. So give him credit for those. And then maybe the worst offender, although I haven't actually read any of these comics, I've just flipped through a bunch of them when I was working at the comic store. Crossed. Zombie comic with like all the zombie rape. I don't know if you've read it.
No, this doesn't surprise me though for some reason.
Strangely, there's a movie called The Wailing that it's like Taiwanese, maybe. I forget what country it hails from, but it's one of those movies that a lot of people won't watch once they hear some of the details about it. And I can understand why, because it's got some really fucked up stuff in it. But it was kind of like Crossed the movie. But the movie was actually good because it was well made and stuff. But like that Crossed comic is just like...
Who published
I can see Albatross, maybe, not one of the well-known publishers.
Okay.
And I can see some people being like, well, yeah, it's so over the top, you can't take it seriously, and that's fine. I still don't like it and think it is terrible. So Let me see if I can pull up, again, you can cut out some of this stuff. I'll see if I can pull up Cross and see what the actual plot of the
I'm really curious.
The story is.
Look at, dude, there
have been several volumes of it as well.
Has there really?
Yeah.
Wow. His run on Hellblazer was insane. I can't believe, like, we're talking this in 96, and at this point, March of 96, Hitman #1 hits, Preacher 13's out. If you get a chance, see what you think of Preacher. I feel like there's got to be something you would like.
So I like Steve Dillon, so that would at least...
Did he... okay, 1995, December 21st, 1995, Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. Apparently he wrote that.
Yeah, I think I've read that, but I don't remember much about it. The story follows survivors dealing with a pandemic that causes its victims to turn into bloodthirsty maniacs that carry out their most evil thoughts. So there's a lot of rape. There's a lot of bodily fluids.
Oh, my God.
Just gross stuff or whatever. The contagion spread across the entire world with the Crossed killing, raping, engaging in cannibalism, and maiming for fun with governments and military overwhelmed, et cetera, et cetera.
Huh.
So, yeah.
When did that come out?
It was actually Avatar Press, and it started in 2008. It looked like there were 10 issues, but there are a bunch of other follow-ups, I think, to the original.
There's just no shortage of, I use the word depraved.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of depravity in the stuff that he likes to write. That's for sure.
Right.
So that it does take, like, there's some stuff that happened in Preacher where I was like, ugh, but man, that book right there does not sound. No.
I'm sure a lot of people, especially the people who are going to want to listen to a Hitman podcast, are probably Garth Ennis fans. I've got some of my best friends love Garth stuff. Like, they love Preacher. A lot of them love Punisher. I'm kind of the weirdo because he's a very popular writer and everything. I would say at this point, having enjoyed Hitman #1, I would say 65 to 70% of the stuff of his that I've read, I dislike to hate.
Okay, all right.
So I'm just not a fan.
So the other,
but I'll give Preacher a shot. At
give like the first volume a go, and just tell me if it's like in any way redeems what you think of him.
Right.
So we mentioned the first appearance of him being in The Demon, and so Ennis is writing The Demon at the same time he's writing Hellblazer from like issue 40 of Demon as his first, 1993, which I have read some Demon stuff. If you can get that character over, more power to you, because I don't.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, like, it might make sense as to why we've got the whole hell angle going now, because of
that could be taken off from some of the plot lines he was using in Demon.
Right. He's got the experience of writing some supernatural stuff. He wrote Demon all the way up to issue 57, so that's a good 2-year run. 58, I'm sorry, issue 58. So anyway.
Well, there was also the god-awful Punisher issue that he had Wolverine. He fought Wolverine. I think he runs him over with a steamroller or something.
What?
Just awful. I forget. It's been 20 years probably since I've read that. So I forget exactly. And I believe Derek Robertson is the artist on that issue.
Listen, as far as deaths go for Wolverine, or at least...
he doesn't kill him.
I was going to say, I need to step back here. As far as attempts to kill Wolverine go, or try to stop him, he
also does something that makes Wolverine rip his own face off. You just see like the adamantium skull underneath.
Well, I was going to say, like, there's two pretty iconic attempts to kill Wolverine that I remember. That is going to be up there now. But the other one was the Ultimate Hulk versus Ultimate Wolverine, where like Hulk tears him in half and then throws half of them across the continent or something, like takes one half and throws it one way. Anyway, Wolverine pulls himself back together somehow.
Right.
Jeez, crap.
I'm looking at some of the images from that book. He also shoots Wolverine in the junk with a machine gun.
I'm sorry, but I'm reading that issue.
I'm sure you would like it. I'm not saying that you wouldn't.
Oh, gosh. What a fun episode this has been. I've learned so much. All right, man, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Unless you got anything else, let's go ahead and get into plugs.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BirdieMan34. I've got Letterboxd under Disco Shrew, and I've got a podcast, a couple movie podcasts I do with my buddy AJ. One is Small Screeners, where we talk about direct-to-video and made-for-TV movies, and then we got another one called Because Movies, where we kind of just talk about whatever we want movie-wise. And you can find those on your podcatcher of choice.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to this most likely on the Source Material Comics feed. Go back and check out some of the previous issues of Unspoken Issues. We talk 90s comics on here all the time. And then Chris just sent me a picture, so I've got to look at this real quick and see what in the world this is. And take a look. Oh my gosh. Wolverine without a face. What in the world? All right, next up. Oh, that's me. Oh, yeah. Shot him straight in the junk. And then they're like hanging out.
Well, they got to team up at the end. It's still a Marvel comic.
Let's set our differences aside. I know you have no face anymore, but we could be friends. We've got a common goal. Go check out the other comic podcast that we do on here also, which is the Source Material Comics podcast. We do comic books of any era. Me and Mark Radlich lately have been going through quite a few fun ones. I think our next one that we're going to be talking about is Incredible Hercules.
That's cool.
Yeah, it comes out. This is shortly after World War Hulk. I think our first discussion is going to be like some of the stuff that's happening during World War Hulk. So, and then it goes into Incredible Hercules. Fun discussion, I'm sure it's going to be had. And then I'll go ahead and promote me and Evan Bevins discussing Marvel Snap. If you play Marvel Snap on your mobile device, then you can hear us talk Marvel Snap on Snap Material. And we will be dropping 4 or 5 episodes once a month. Nice little 20-minute chunks. Check that out. Enjoy if you get a chance to do. So, with that being said, that over there is Chris Armstrong. I'm Jesse Starcher. Thank you very much. How are we sending this one out?
Forgive me, Ennis heads. Forgive me. Or don't. It's fine.